Stacey Abrams is a woman devoid of any political talent, charisma, skill, let alone achievement. There's just nothing about her that is, from a political perspective, at all exciting or engaging. But she desperately wants to be vice president, and she has been on TV essentially threatening Biden to get the job, saying that he needs to hire a black woman, and hey, she just so happens to be a black woman. You know, what she's saying is, hey, I'm not saying hire me, but I am saying that if you don't hire a black woman, you're racist. And by the way, I'm a black woman. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. In fact, being a black woman appears to be her only qualification for the job, which is why she leans so heavily on it. Well, she seems to have switched her tactic a little bit here, because she's gone from threatening Biden to sucking up to him to try to get the job. She was asked about the rape allegations against the Democratic nominee. And here's what she said. Brave, courageous, Stacey Abrams says, "I believe women deserve to be heard, and I believe that has happened here." She's saying Tara Reade has been heard. The mainstream media has ignored it, but she's been heard. The allegations have been heard and looked into by who? Who's looked into them? Right? Nobody in the mass media has. And for too many women, often that is not the case. The New York Times conducted a thorough investigation, and nothing in the Times Review or any other later reports suggest anything other than what I already know about Joe Biden, that he will make women proud as the next president of the United States. This woman is such a snake. She really is. I just have such contempt for all of these people who have been going on with the Me Too, believe all women shtick for years now. And they're throwing all that to the side. Because we keep comparing, I've compared Biden and Kavanaugh, saying that there's so much more evidence against Biden than there was against Kavanaugh. But not just, put Kavanaugh to the side for a minute. There is more evidence against Biden than there was against a lot of the guys who got caught up in the Me Too movement. Many of whom I'm sure were actually guilty, but there's much more evidence against him than there was against a lot. With so many of these cases in the Me Too movement, all you really had was women making accusations. There was no other evidence besides that. With this, you have corroborating evidence. You have people coming out and saying, yes, she told me about this. I know about this. You've got video evidence from the Larry King show. I mean, so there is, if this is not enough to convince you, and I'm not even saying it's enough to convince me. I'm not convinced. I think it's compelling evidence. I think I certainly lean towards believing it. In fact, I'll tell you one of the main reasons I lean towards believing it. On top of all the evidence, and along with the lack of an apparent political motive of Tara Reade, I mean, she's not some kind of conservative activist. If she was, then I would say that's a very good reason to be extremely skeptical. But I'd say one of the main reasons I lean towards believing it is that Joe Biden has not addressed it. Okay? And yeah, he hasn't been forced to address it because our clown car hack media has not forced the issue. So he hasn't had to address it. But it's not as though this is some fringe wacko on a blog somewhere making a claim. And I could see if you're a public figure and there's a fringe wacko on a blog making a claim, and if it's not true, you might just ignore it and say nothing about it, unless you're forced to acknowledge it. That's not what's happening here. Yeah, the mainstream media is ignoring it, but the story is still out there. People know about it. So this is not a fringe thing. And yet Biden hasn't addressed it. And so I think to myself, if you're an innocent man and there's this claim out there about you and it's totally untrue, but it's out there and millions of people have heard about it, wouldn't you be champing at the bit to get out and deny it? Why wouldn't you deny it? There's no reason not to. Again, if it's something not a lot of people have heard about, then that's a reason maybe to not acknowledge it or deny it, because you don't want to call more attention to it. But everybody knows about it now. Why wouldn't you? I mean, you would have, if it was me running for office and this was out there and it was false, you would have to tie me to my chair to get me to not go out and be denying this hither and yon. I mean, because you're innocent, right? So the fact that Biden is not out there denying it and addressing it head on and saying this is simply not true. It didn't happen. It is not true. This woman is lying. He's not saying that. So anyway, those are all the reasons to lean towards believing it. All of that is more compelling, adds up to more compelling evidence than existed against a lot of the Me Too guys. And many of whom, by the way, denied it also. I'm not saying that denying it proves they didn't do it, but they at least denied it. So you've got a denial and in many cases no evidence, and you're going to believe that, but not this. So all of these, every single person who was cheering on the Me Too movement and now is defending Biden, they're all a bunch of contemptible, disgusting snakes. Thank you for tuning into the Daily Wire, one of the fastest growing conservative media outlets in the entire country. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and a subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of our content.